Hey folks, Matt Leck here, filling in for Emma and Sam, and here to talk about our guest, Blue Land. I'm all for self-reflection and rethinking how I can make an impact this year. I know you all are too. That's why I'm sitting in this seat. Blue Land's products are not just about tidying things up, but also about a cleaner, greener lifestyle by reducing plastic use. Each year, Americans throw away 25% more trash from Thanksgiving to New Year's. This year, let's turn our New Year's resolution into actions that make a difference by switching to Blue Land. Blue Land is on a mission, like I said, to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. I know, every time you run out of cleaning product, you're like, I have to do this again, buy another whole thing. The idea is simple. They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counter. Fill your reusable bottles with water, drop in the tablets, and wait for them to dissolve. Refills start at just $2.25. You can even set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. Let's see here. From cleaning sprays to hand soap, toilet bowl cleaner, and laundry tablets, all Blue Land products are made with clean ingredients you can feel good about. Blue Land is trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine, my apartment. I guess I can call it a home. Call to action here, folks. Blue Land has a special offer for listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority for 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority for 15% off. Hit it.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. I'm Matt Leck, filling in for Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland on the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially-ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. A news crew Thursday, Emma Thursday without Emma today, folks. But first, we have some news headlines to get to. Trump signs an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, putting Linda Mann in charge of that. Who else would you want? Trump officials circulate a plan that would overhaul U.S. aid, put it under the State Department's control. Pete Hegseth appealing a block on the Trump transgender military ban, talking about fighting spirit from the Christian nationalist guy. Fade the music a little bit more. DHS goons detain another person, this time in Georgetown, a Georgetown University academic, Badr Khan Suri, accusing them of spreading Hamas propaganda without evidence. Of course. Trump administration attacking judges as Democratic activists. And from my neck of the woods, Mandan, North Dakota, my hometown, there was a jury that ruled that Greenpeace must pay at least $660 million over Dakota Access Pipeline protests. Horrible decision there. All that and more on today's Majority Report. Can fade us out now. Folks, it is a different kind of show today. Emma came down a little bit ill, and Sam is out on a Thursday. So I am going to be hosting until we get Matt Binder here. And do you see Matt Binder in the thing? So let's go to the new break and let's bring Matt Binder in if you can. And we'll introduce the person behind the camera in a second. You see the new break thing?
Yeah, but I can't get the mouse over there.
Okay.
I got it.
All right, folks. So we'll be right back with Matt Binder. Oh, we're back.
Hello, everyone. It is me, Matt Binder, and it is you, Brandon.
It
we
is.
are here on the Majority Report without Emma. What a weird thing to do without Emma. The Emma Majority Report without Emma.
I like to think that we're, a more streamlined show. We're taking the her out of Thursday and replacing it with a his. So, maybe this day that wasn't good. You go, Matt. You keep going.
No, I mean, listen. Trump has made some changes, and the Majority Report is starting to institute some of them. And Emma's got to go. That's just how it goes. I'm sorry, Emma. It's the boys today.
We're reacting.
It's Masculine Visibility Thursday.
Right. And what a perfect day to start a new producer, or a week to start a new producer, where Emma just doesn't show up. Welcome to the Majority Report, Rust. It's the smooth sailings from here.
We haven't even revealed the name of our new producer yet, so Binder is broken. But we'll do a more formal one. You kind of stepped all over a formal announcement tomorrow, but yeah, exactly. It's a complete whirlwind over here.
I don't watch the show. What do I know? Anyway,
I love watching the show, especially episodes that I'm on.
Anyway, let's get right to it. There was a really great video today that about everyone's favorite Democratic senator. Not talking about Chuck Schumer this time. I'm talking about one John Fetterman. So John Fetterman, the senator from Israel, is visiting his and he's visiting his constituents. Is he in Tel Aviv? He's in Israel, that's for sure. But wherever he is. I mean, he's visiting with Benjamin Netanyahu, so I'm assuming he's in Tel Aviv, right? That's where the government runs out of everything. So let's pull up this clip and let's see. I'm assuming that he's visiting with his constituents, and they're going to be demanding that Doge stops firing them all over in Israel, right? That's how those town halls have been going everywhere else.
This is the town hall he's here for.
Everything. How about giving him a beeper?
It's like
Now this is a silver-plated beeper. The real beeper is like 1/10 the weight. It's nothing.
Really?
Yeah, but it changes history.
You know, when that story broke,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I love it, and now it's like, thank you for this. Yeah, no, all right, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
And there we go, some piety.
Oh God. All right, so there's John Fetterman meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, and this is obviously, usually Democratic politicians, they do that dance for between like their more moderate constituents, who honestly I don't even think they exist anymore, but they think they do. Chuck Schumer's the Baileys, the imaginary family from Long Island that he makes all his decisions based on. They have their Baileys. And then they have their actual real life progressive constituents. And they do that dance where they support Israel, but they don't support Netanyahu and what he does. They'll stand by Israel. They give all their support to Israel, but they don't back everything Netanyahu does. They have a 1 or 2% disagreement. John Fetterman here is basically just destroying that imaginary line that so many Democrats try to hold, where they criticize the administration but back the country and the people. He's basically fully backing Benjamin Netanyahu with this meeting like this. And Netanyahu thanks him with a silver-plated beeper, and that's obviously a reference to that attack from Israel where they basically sold beepers through third-party intermediaries to, what was it, Hezbollah, right? And yes. Then they remotely set these beepers off, which were actually explosives. But of course, they don't know who the people who got the beepers are with, or if they sold or gave away the beepers to someone else. And
they don't care either.
Yeah, nor do they care, really. I remember, I believe children were at the very least injured, if not killed in this attack. But there they are having a good old laugh and getting a nice souvenir in the form of a silver-plated beeper over this attack. I mean, it's gross. What do you think?
I mean, this is nothing. Yeah, I just want to say, this is Fetterman really loves this joke because the Council for Arab American Islamic Relations CARE had to call out Fetterman a while ago in November. CARE Pennsylvania calls on Senator Fetterman to apologize for dangerous rhetoric targeting pro-Palestinian students because he had representatives of Betar, the fascistic Zionist movement, and that's Einstein. That's Einstein's words calling it. He met with those representatives who made a beeper joke then too. Ross Glick made a joke targeting members of SJP with references to booby-trapped pager explosions. They love this sort of violence, fascistic violence, frankly. And Betar, again, that group that you can look up what Einstein said about them as the Jewish brown shirts, has been dictating to Fetterman and to Columbia board members names of people to target for deportations. It is shocking that a Democratic senator is a liaison there, and it's just open. It's not even like a secret. It'd be one thing if it was a conspiracy. I'm like, I think Fetterman's. No, it's in the papers that he's dealing with this brown shirt in Betar.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
No, I'm gonna say it's hard to find or even think of a senator or other member of our government who is more slavishly devoted to Israel than John Fetterman is. And I think that, looking back on his positions prior to being elected, there were obvious signs that he, like many of our Democratic politicians, just like many of our Republican politicians, are openly pro-Israel, openly Zionist, openly, by nature of those things, anti-Palestine, and, at least at the very least, not sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinian people or their current ongoing genocide. But like, to imagine that he'd be this dedicated to it, he's getting an award in the form of one of their many war crimes. I don't think you could have predicted this. I think this is like beyond the pale, and it's hard to even know who wants this, who is what part of the Democratic Party voting base is impressed by this level of devotion to Israel. Like, I feel like I've seen him with Netanyahu more than I've seen him with members of his own constituency. Like, he's always like running from them, or like stumbling away from them, like, lurching away from them as he does. But yeah, like it's I can only attribute it to the brain damage he suffered from that stroke, that he thinks this is like the way to be.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like conceivable that I think maybe it was Ben Burgess or Bronco March teacher, one of those guys had, that he's a progressive except for Palestine sort of guy, even during the primaries. But I do agree that he would at least be able to make it look like how the other senators that are frankly bought by Israel make it look, where there's like some kind of tension there, rather than saying, hey, yeah, when you blew up kids with pagers or just blew up people indiscriminately with pagers, I thought that was totally right on, man. Like, I mean, I say that and I'm having images flash through my mind of all the different politicians who signed missiles to be launched at Palestinians. So, it's hard to say maybe too definitively.
Also, he shouldn't be allowed to accept that pager. How do we? It could be a national security risk. How do we know that pager's not active? How do we know that
that's
pager?
Why he should be.
I mean, let's put it this way: he's going to ostensibly get on a plane to get home, right? I mean, unless he's just going to live out his days in Israel now, and I guess they'll allow the one time they'll allow people to vote remotely is if they are in Israel, because I guess it's considered part of the United States at this point. But if I was getting on a plane and I saw John Fetterman, and I was coming home from a vacation or whatever, and I saw John Fetterman on that plane, and I saw that video of him getting that beeper, I would immediately get off that plane. I don't want to be on a plane with John Fetterman holding that beeper. Who knows what could happen with that beeper?
Yeah, I mean, and the broader point is like our war on terror has had two massive impact. I mean, a lot of impacts on trust, but two very specific ones, which is the vaccination program that was used to entrap bin Laden has led to anti-vax. Sort of, how can you trust these organizations that want to vaccinate the world if they're just going to be spying on your DNA in the most sort of like dystopian way possible? And this, like, we're supposed to trust electronics. We have all these issues about like, oh, we need the CHIPS Act because we want the supply chains for electronics to not be in our enemies' hands. Our allies are booby trapping our supply chains. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right. And I don't typically want to bring this sort of thing up, but she was a major part of his campaign and she's an activist herself. But, his wife appears to have gone along with him on this trip to Israel. I know a lot of people from Pennsylvania who know her work as an activist. She's a dreamer. They have been working hard to sort of detach her from John Fetterman's turn. And, you can't blame someone, a wife, a parent, a child, for the act that their husband or father or whatever does. But going on this trip to Israel and sitting there with Netanyahu, that's a step a bit too far for me to say this is, you can't blame her for the opinion. I mean, clearly she had politics. No problem going there with him. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yep. You want to do some ads?
Yeah, let's do some ads. Here we go. The Matt Binder ad reads. Let's do this. All right. So you all know me. I love healthy food. McDonald's, Burger King, all the staples of a healthy diet. Even when I cheat, I get a good old New York slice from Domino's or Papa John's. So I'm not the healthiest eater. When you see Taco Bell and you get the salad, did you know that the Taco Bell salad is actually the food at Taco Bell with the most calories? My assumption is they just pack in so much healthy food. That's why that happens, right? But, if you are actually looking to eat better, you should check out Factor. Now, Factor is a HelloFresh company, and they make some really great healthy food. It is chef made, dietitian approved, and it's ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, which is great because if you're like me, I hate spending time in the kitchen, which is probably why I don't eat so healthy to begin with. It's so easy just to go out and buy fast food. So
Especially in New
2
York.
minutes. Yes, there's great options too. But
But
if
if you have
want
a
to
New
eat
York
healthier,
apartment, Factor.
right?
Very easy
Absolutely.
preparation.
Yes. And I was looking up some of the food that Factor makes, and it looks really good. Like not the usual stuff you consider like health food. Like I saw a nice juicy steak in one of their meals. Now that's something I would eat without even having to be, convinced to eat healthier. So right there, they got me. I'm fine eating stuff like that. That looks wonderful, fantastic, and apparently, according to Factor, it's healthy too. You can check out Factor and start eating healthier and eating great by going to factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use the coupon code FactorPodcast, that they're making it nice and easy. The URL is Factor Podcast. The coupon is Factor Podcast, and get 50% off your first box. Plus you get free shipping as well. Sam Seder, I'm assuming, being that he's been running these ads, he's been eating Factor, and everyone always talks about how great Sam looks for his age. Now that I'm getting up there, I got to eat healthier too. So I hopefully look like Sam when I'm his age. So that's factormeals.com/factorpodcast, coupon code FactorPodcast. Was that long enough, Matt? I think that was good, right?
That's great. Yeah.
And should I hit the second? Let's do the second ad read,
Let's do
right?
it.
All right, cool. Now, this one is actually a company that I am familiar with because, quick story. Some of you know me from various different podcasts along with the Majority Report. And one of the podcasts I host, I do it with multiple different co-hosts. And on 2 separate occasions, 2 of my co-hosts, 2 separate ones, have been doxxed on the internet because of the work they do. And they received harassment. Their families got calls. This is not fun stuff to deal with. And one of the reasons that people can find this information about individuals is because data mining companies have so much information on you that you really have no idea what companies have what information, how much information they have on you. You have no clue how much on you is out there. And it's so easily accessible by anyone. Delete Me is a company that helps take care of that. So Delete Me basically scours these data mining companies and helps remove your information so it's not so easily accessible. Delete Me does all of the work of wiping your information and your family's personal information from data websites. It also provides you with data privacy reports too. So you can know what they found and where they found it and what has been removed. Because again, these data mining companies constantly refresh their information based on, you signing up for something new. It could be a website, a subscription, a payment platform, literally anything. And so these reports help you keep tabs on what got removed from where. So you also know who is giving your information out there as well. Delete Me is a service that will continue to scour the internet for you. And from what I understand from the people who on my other shows who have used it, it works. They got a lot less doxing happening to them thanks to Delete Me. And you could basically sign up for Delete Me by texting majority to 64,000. That's 64000. And you'll get a 20% off clickable URL texted back to you to start your Delete Me subscription. So you can make sure that this doesn't happen, the doxing doesn't happen to you and your family. So that's Delete Me. And that's just texting the word majority to 64,000, 64000 for your 20% off link to a Delete Me subscription. Ta-da!
Very good.
There we go. All right, folks. What do we want to do now? Is there? You guys have a great sound sheet for us here.
Should we do these town halls here? 4
yes.
and 5.
Yes, let's do the town halls. I was also just watching this on my stream. They're great. Let's hit those.
So yeah, this is a Sue Gordon, an attendee at Town Hall in Central PA. Let's check this out. This is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
For the Department of Education. He got axed. Opened up the computer, guess what? You're gone. Let me tell you what he
She's talking about her son.
did for the Department of Education. He reviewed contracts. He saved everybody in here thousands of tax dollars, and his evaluation was the top. Then I turn on the TV the next day, and there is Trump saying they were scum, no good people, what they got rid of. I am furious. Furious. Where is Scott Perry? Our federal workers, he has the most federal workers under him. Where is he? Medicare. And let me tell you, some of the calls I return back are poor, limited people that can't file their paperwork. So I do it for them, with them, and get it done. If they get cut, they won't have anything. Same with the seniors. I help them make plans, I help them understand the system. The system is very complicated. So everyone here has to stand up because I see it on both ends. Thank you.
Damn. Listen, it's great to see this. And that one's specifically good because you got a nice, along with the speaker here being really great, you got a nice view of like the crowd. It wasn't from like a stage where you can't really, you saw that crowd. The Republican Party and the various different, MAGA politicians are trying to basically convince their hardcore faithful supporters that the people showing up who are angry to these town halls aren't really, their fellow citizen, their average constituent. These are like leftist activists. And I'm sure some of them are, obviously. Yeah. But if you look at that crowd, they were like I would say, based on that shot, older, like they were like a fairly baby boomer aged crowd. And typically over the years, baby boomers have been more conservative because they're older, I guess, and they're not going to be as progressive as maybe the millennials. But
they're pro-government in certain cases, and to see it just acts like this. I mean, that woman is the best of us. Like what she does in helping people on Medicaid and Social Security work through a Byzantine system that is stacked exactly to make it difficult for those people to do it is heroic. And how dare people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who have scammed their way to the top, basically cast aspersions on people like that they're committing fraud or there's something like that. Like it's really an attack on what is the best of America when it comes to people like that.
And this is happening all over the country. Like you can watch town halls from all over America and see almost this exact same thing. I think on my stream, we watched one from Spokane, Washington. We watched one from the 1st District in Nebraska. And this exact same thing is happening all over the country because a lot of Republicans are now, and I don't want to assume everyone who's angry at these people are Republican voters. Certainly they're not all MAGA, because I think Republicans like to make that conflation where every Republican is like a tried and true MAGA voter, one of Trump's cultists who are going to support him no matter what he does. But that's not true. A lot of people are cultural Republicans who just don't fully understand what the Republican Party is actually trying to accomplish all the time, and they're becoming hyper aware of the reality that the Republican Party, through Trump and Elon, is a party that is, more or less looking to entirely abolish every agency in the government that does anything other than funnel money up to the top percent of earners, and everyone else is just going to be left out in the lurch. And, unfortunately, a lot of people had to experience that directly for them to fully appreciate that. But now that they are appreciating that, like a lot of the talking points around how undocumented migrants were taking jobs and taking housing was just a tool used by the uber wealthy to extract value and wealth from our society, broadly speaking, they're mad, they're angry. Will they be able to properly contextualize all that, the same way that we do? No, but they will be able to see who's doing it to them, especially when people who are doing it to them are doing it as publicly and rubbing their faces in it the way Elon Musk is. And they're angry. They're angry. Right. And, that's why they're trying to cancel events like this all over the country, because they want to keep people like this isolated and don't want them to understand that they're not the only ones who are suffering as a result of the Republican Party's machinations, as the result of, Elon Musk and Donald Trump's machinations. They want to keep people isolated and individualized in such a way that they can't, further contextualize what's happening to them. And it's not working because people are having it happen to them.
Right. Yeah, that's like a major thing that is a huge factor in this. That like this is immediately affecting people who are also Trump's supporters. Yeah. Like you hear story after story of like the guy on Social Security who was, as Elon Musk was declaring, oh, so many dead people are getting Social Security. No, it turns out that they're wrongly. There's some like administrative issues, of course, but that money isn't going out to a dead person. That person is alive and needs Social Security, and they're just wrongly marked as deceased in the system. But they're, instead of fixing the mark of him being deceased, they're just assuming the money was going out fraudulently and taking his money. That's one instance. Another instance is like the voter who voted for Trump, who wanted him to make the government smaller, but lo and behold, their own children are federal employees and they lose their job. And all of a sudden it's affecting me. I didn't want them to fire my kid. Well, guess what? That's what happens. But you know what? They're going to now get upset at the administration. And this is going to continue to happen over and over again down the line with all these things that the Trump administration is affecting. And I think that's what you're seeing really at these town halls. Like these people, again, they probably range from if you want to say, oh, it's leftist activists. Yeah, I'm sure there are some there, along with some non-activists, along with some conservatives who are hit by the Trump administration. It's literally your constituents. Your constituency is made up of people of all different backgrounds and all different ideological beliefs.
Ironically, it's like the thing that the right always says, like, your actions are making us right wing. It's like, no, you attacking things like Social Security and Medicaid and the National Institutes of Health or whatever, that is turning people into leftists. And actually, this next clip here, this is from the same town hall. A woman has a suggestion here.
I'm calling AOC because we can't get Scott Perry to have a town hall. She is traveling through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and she will hold a town hall where your representative will not come. So please call AOC and bring her here and shame Scott Perry.
It's so fantastic that there's someone doing this. Like if I was AOC, I'm sure she only has limited time and budget to get everywhere, but I would try to hit up as many of these places as possible. And I'm sure she is. I know if I was in Congress. Wait, what did you say?
She quote tweeted that and said like, yeah, she's making a list of places she wants to go to.
That's awesome. Yeah, if I was a congressperson, that's what I would do. I'd be going around to every single one of these places where Republicans are avoiding their constituents, because not only are you're doing two things here. You're showing a group of people in somewhere that's completely unrelated and probably very different from where you're from, that you care about them, which helps in turn whatever candidate decides to run there, and then will also help her, who if she has larger aspirations in government.
Yeah, it is not just about not just about AOC or Bernie Sanders going to these districts to preach, communism, like the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism. This is about someone needs to go to these places to advocate for the value of the public sector, because the Democratic Party just simply does not do this as a coherent part of their messaging. And now people are in a place where they can see what happens when the public sector has been devalued in the minds of enough voters to the point where it can be, continue to be subject to deregulation, defunding, austerity politics. It leads to outcomes like this. And so people need to be going to these districts to contextualize, like, this is why we need a robust public sector. This is why you should not allow yourself to be convinced by, hucksters that someone else getting something from the government is somehow, impeding your ability to be successful, because we all get things from the government. The idea of an entitlement program is just like a Reagan era talking point to get people to, agree to deregulating every aspect of the government, not just taking money away from minorities. Like the roads that you drive on are an entitlement from the government. They're money that is taken away from the masses to be put into a project that betters all society. And Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid is no different. But we don't hear Democrats not just going to districts like this, but just on the news advocating for, like, this is why we need a robust public sector. This is why we need people to like work in government. This is why public sector employees are valuable and should be paid, for their work and for their labor. And that's what people, need to hear right now, because this is the result of, 30, 40, 50 years of like neoliberal slopaganda,
Right.
Not necessarily people, going to the town halls and being angry as a result of that, but the fact that we got to this point is the result of all those years of people like, well, what does the government even really do, like, besides get in the way of you and your ability to make money and do. And it's like, people need a basic civics lesson in like what their tax dollars go to, besides like bombing children, unfortunately.
No, that's a great point. And it's sort of like, I guess, like an elitist way of thinking that Democrats a lot of times just go into things with the baseline belief that people know just these like common facts to them. Like they view this as common because they work in politics and policy. They're in this bubble. So they just view this as, oh, I know this is common sense. Everyone knows this, but unfortunately, a lot of people just don't realize that some of the things they take for granted are actually there because of the government, and that's where your tax dollars went. Roads just don't magically spring out of the ground; they're built and maintained.
And also, just a lot of Democrats just don't believe in that either, because they're neoliberal. They just don't believe that the government should be doing as much as it should be doing, and so that's why they tinker around the edges. That's why they allow policies that uplift children out of poverty, like the child tax credit, to expire, because ultimately they believe in this illusion of the free market, and that needs to be upheld by our government above the private sector. But Trump and Elon Musk being viewed as great geniuses are a result of that exact same mentality. This idea that if you're a successful businessman, we'll abstract that. Who cares how you became successful? Who cares how you became rich? The fact that you are rich and successful is a sign of your inherent moral and intellectual superiority. And so why shouldn't you run our government? Like when they demonize public sector workers, when they demonize government bureaucracy, acontextually, they give rise to the exact same conditions that lead to the people like Trump becoming the president. And we just need a party. They don't need to be fully communist. They don't need to be fully socialist to just be a part of that. So it's like, okay, but the government has a role in making people's lives better, right? If anything, the references to communism and socialism in our government and our political media is oftentimes just a red herring to prevent people from advocating for or appreciating basic redistributive policies, even policies that like the New Deal, or things that are aligned with the New Deal, or like it could be seen as being part of that same genealogy, are demonized by the people as being like, oh, that's just communism, even though like they were just made to ensure that like capitalists could still do capitalism more or less without people uprising and doing stuff like at this town hall, like banging on tables, calling for Scott Perry to come out so they could do God knows what to him, right? Like we're just at a point where people have been subjected to so much neoliberal propaganda by all sides that they just don't fully understand, they don't fully understand what the government does for them and how like their lives would be radically different without the government, like in a way that they can now appreciate, right? Which is unfortunate that they have to experience it to appreciate it, because people, like Sam, people like us talk to them about it all the time, but until they appreciate it, until they experience it, they can't appreciate it for some reason.
And I think it's very interesting, like if you're a Democrat wondering why is that woman who is it looks like she's from the boomer generation. Why is she looking out for AOC? It's because, like Brandon said, this entire generation, for all of our lives, Democrats have been embarrassed by the public legacy of like the New Deal. Bill Clinton won saying the era of big government is over and he's going to end welfare as we know it. And he did. And he said, don't worry about it because I have all my CEO friends that are just waiting to hire you as we get you back off of welfare. And how could that class of politicians expect that now that it's time to protect what's left of the New Deal legacy, things like Social Security, Medicaid and Medicare, like the actual only time that Democrats were really good at constructing government in this country, like we're expecting all these people who are from the period of doing F all. Okay, Obamacare, thanks for just a Band-Aid there. Like we're expecting them to protect it. It's going to need to be a Bernie Sanders style or AOC, like and actually I saw Tim Walz sort of talk about this. He credited Ezra Klein's abundance thing, which I think is maybe a little bit sideways, but basically he said, look, like we can't just go back to maintenance of the inheritance of government systems and say we need to put it back how it was before the Republicans messed it up. There needs to be a point where you say we're going to build the new institutions for the 21st century. That is things like public health care. Like we need to like things that didn't need to require the Southern Democrats to get on board with. Like we can set these systems up anew. And so but that's the big question, because Democrats like Walz see that, and even some others might see that as necessary, and it is. And there's a whole bunch of other Democrats like Chuck Schumer who do not agree with the need to completely basically do a new deal. I mean, Nancy Pelosi said the Green New Dream or whatever. We need to do at least that, a new deal.
I would love us to go further, but like we're just at that point where if Trump has 4 years of whatever the Democrats are doing, calling it opposition, I think that they're trying to set themselves up for an easy 2028 election. If we have Democrats getting an easy 2028 election where they put someone like Gavin Newsom into the presidency, we will see in 2032 a more outright fascist Republican Party candidacy, a Republican Party in general, right? Because we know people like Gavin Newsom, they will not go far enough left to, tamp down on the material deprivation that gives rise to fascism in, crumbling Western nation states, right? They will just continue the austerity policy. They'll put maybe a more friendly face on it. They'll do some like lazy gesturing towards social liberalism that will just piss people off more and give like social liberalism a bad name because it's tied to like unpopular neoliberal politics. And then we'll have, President Nick Fuentes in 2032. We won't be staring down the barrel of like techno-feudalism or where we all live and work in the company mines and then shop at the company stores under Elon Musk and Mr. Beast. We'll be dealing with outright like Nazism. We'll be dealing with more outright Nazism, because that's what they mean by like socialism and barbarism. Like we can go in one or two directions. There is no the illusion of neoliberal like Democrat type liberalism as like a homeostasis is just that's an illusion. They're like that's not a sustainable place to be.
Also, it's not just good policy. I feel like there have been many Democrats over the years who talk the talk, say they back something, and then when push comes to shove and it's up against the wall, they're like, oh, we tried, we just couldn't do it, because they knew it wouldn't happen. They knew that there would be something to block it. So they would support it. So they got the good graces from that, but happily knew that it would fail. We can't do that either. Along with the good policy, we need politicians who are just going to fucking get it done. We're going to fucking do it. Do it. Like, I don't give a shit what the parliamentarian says and all this other bullshit the Democrats like to dance around. Yeah. Look what Trump is doing right now, defying orders from judges, literally breaking the law. You know what? Break the law for good if you have to. Give everyone health care. Let Republicans have to peel it back from people after they get it, and then let them tell their constituents why they no longer have health care. Like, literally, enough with this bullshit.
100%. We got another town hall clip here. This is from Chuck Grassley's district. Just play this here.
What's happening, Brian?
Questions range from how Elon Musk is wielding so much power to tariffs and everything in between. Senator Grassley acknowledged the anger directed at the Trump administration, as well as members of the crowd who supported his sweeping changes.
And your role as a long-term senator is to speak up and remember those of us with little power.
At times, questions to Senator Chuck Grassley boiled over at a boardroom in the public library in Dysart.
How sad. I'm going to follow the court decision, but we're going to appeal.
The crowd size exceeded expectations and were divided into two meetings. Gloria Zmolik traveled nearly an hour from Cedar Rapids to be here. She's also part of the group called Indivisible, an organization opposed to Trump's agenda.
I'm very frustrated with the decisions that are being made in Washington by the Trump administration.
Many of the questions focused on the work of the new Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk's impact on shrinking the size of the government.
I want to make it very clear that Musk has no power
The senator says he's holding the town hall despite the Republican National Committee advising congressional Republicans to stop holding town halls because of how tumultuous the meetings have been across the country. But critics pointed to how even his own office didn't promote this event.
There was no mention of this town hall. I didn't find out about it until late last night.
We did have a large turnout, and there were a lot of tough questions. A lot of people are mad at what's going on in the Trump administration, but I hope I was able to answer their questions effectively.
Senator Chuck Grassley says his office didn't list this town hall on public schedule because the Tama County Economic Development Authority hosted the event, not Grassley.
A lot of us feel helpless. A lot of people that have similar opinions as I, and spending a lot of time, they spend a lot of time complaining about it. But I think the important message here is you've got to speak up.
Seems to me like if so many people are showing up to an event, Chuck Grassley, that isn't a officially hosted by you town hall just to speak with you, it sounds like you should probably set up some town halls for your constituents then. I mean, the fact that they're going to this unofficial event to talk with you seems like you should be setting up some events for them. Also, I think you should be posting your schedule online regardless of whether you set it up or not. Give me a break. Oh God! Yeah, these guys are just finding any little loophole or excuse as to why they're avoiding their constituents. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're running scared. They're scared of their voters, which they should be, right? They should be afraid at the very least that they might be voted out of office due to their negative politics, and the way those politics and those policies impact people's lives. We know that there's been a mandate coming down from the Republican Party to prevent stuff just like this so that they cancel these meetings, so that people can't yell at them, so that they don't get all of these clips on the news of Republican Party politicians fumbling to answer questions about why veterans are being fired in large swaths from the VA, why people's disabled children are no longer able to go to school and get occupational therapy, because they're afraid that the lack of empathy that they rely on for their voters to vote a certain way will be impeded by seeing people like this who look just like them struggling under this particular government administration.
Yeah. Shout out to Indivisible mobilizing people like that in all over the country. In Iowa, a state that remind Democrats voted for Obama both times, and we wonder how can we win in areas like that. Well, what did people project onto Obama that had Iowans voting for him that hasn't been able to be projected since? And I'm not saying states don't change. I know, I'm somebody who knows full well type of brain drain that happens in states in the middle of the country, and it doesn't have good long-term electoral impacts. But all these states have a huge fraction, at least, of people who are right on board with, and an increasing number who say oh yeah, I want Social Security. I don't want to have to drive to Dystal or wherever that was in Iowa to go to the office when I used to be able to just call in because Elon Musk said it's inefficient or fraudulent or something.
Also,
I don't know if you.
Obama
No,
was
go ahead.
Obama was the change candidate. People don't like business as usual when life sucks. And every Democratic candidate for president since Obama has not advocated for change. They've advocated for a return to normalcy. Even Biden, after 4 years of Trump, instead of being a change candidate from the previous administration, it was let's return to normal, not something new that will help us. Let's return to life before, which is not going to happen. People looked at Obama as a way to the future, and that's why they went with Obama. Even 8 years, even 2 terms, because that's what he presented to them. And the Democrats, for some reason, saw a guy win 2 terms and said, let's not follow that strategy. It's bizarre.
Well, I think they learned the wrong lessons from Obama, because the right lesson to learn from Obama is, ironically, the same lesson you learned from Trump, which is that party politics, as usual, are very unpopular. People do not like the Democrats. People do not like the Republicans. There was just that CNN poll that came out that showed the Democratic Party that record low favorability. They're at 29%. But that exact same poll showed the Republicans are at 36%. The reason Obama was so successful and the reason why Trump was so successful within the Republican Party is because both were seen as outsiders who were going to shake things up and change politics as usual. That they recognized that both parties were incredibly flawed and that career politicians were like robbing people blind. And that messaging was enough to win people over towards like voting for them. The Democratic Party has not become more popular since then. The Republican Party has not really become more popular as a result of Donald Trump. If anything, they've become less popular, even as Donald Trump's popularity, is still higher than theirs. I think it's like in the high 40%. But what the Democratic Party is relying on, or like what the lesson they learned from Barack Obama, was that George W. Bush made the Republican Party so unpopular that they would never win presidency again. And when that failed to be the case in 2016, they were like, okay, but surely this time Trump made the Republican Party so unpopular that they would never win again. And that's what they're banking on for a third time, that there is a Republican Party presidency, an administration, that it will be so unpopular that the Democratic Party never has to do anything coherent again other than gesture to the right and go like, look at these jokers. You wouldn't vote for that. But that's not how it works in this country. Most people are not that like in tune with politics to the point where they're looking at things past like this very immediate moment, how they're able to survive under it, materially, and what what party is currently in charge. So I think going forward, unless the parties do something different, we're just going to see a lot more turnover, a lot less like 8-year presidencies and a lot more like 4 years. Okay, now every midterm, who's in charge of Congress and the Senate changes as well, unless there's been extreme gerrymandering going on, because neither party is dedicated to uplifting a large swath of the population out of poverty. And it's only going to take, for the Trump administration, it only took a few months for people to realize that they were just being scammed by populist rhetoric. And so we're just entering in a very negative place in our society where people are, being widespread subject to like austerity politics in a way that like they haven't been before. And that's coloring their ability to think past the immediate moment when it comes to voting or politics at all.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. Also, though, I think those polls will always have Democrats at a disadvantage, because the fact of the matter is that Republicans give the majority of the base what they want. So the people who vote Republican are usually happy with their party. Whereas Democrats, they give a large portion of their base the opposite of what they want. And even though those people might go out and vote Democrats to stop the Republicans, they still voice their disapproval of the Democrats in those polls. So Democrats will always be at a disadvantage in those polls, if you ask me. But that should be a message to them that, that can't keep going on, because eventually those people will become disengaged and just decide that it's not even worth it to do what they've been doing, and that is to just try to stop the Republicans.
Yeah,
if the Republicans keep winning, if Republicans just keep winning, regardless of all the, going out to vote against Republicans that you want, then they're going to start to think, this isn't even working. I'm not voting for the Democrats. Me voting against Republicans isn't even doing the job. What's the point of any of this? And that's what they do not want.
Exactly. People are going to tune out. I think that you're right, that the Republican Party does a lot of better job of mediating people's waning material conditions through like the culture war, like by telling them that, like, how your roads are all screwed up and you're like, post-industrial Midwestern town. How like your son moved away from like Cleveland, Ohio to go live in New York City and doesn't visit except for once every few months or so because that's where his job is. That's the result of minorities moving into your community. That's the result of immigrants. And if we hurt those people, it will help you. And a lot of people, find that message compelling due to like the history of racism and racist politics in America. And they also find it compelling because there's no real counter message to explain what's actually causing all those things to happen. Because the Democratic Party isn't presenting that. The Democratic Party isn't feeding their base anything that they can latch onto to like develop the same kind of like attachment to them that the Republican Party is. But now those people are seeing, because they're being hurt directly, not just not seeing other people be hurt, but they're being hurt directly by Republican Party politics. And so I think a lot of people are not going to necessarily turn towards the Democrats. They're just going to check out. They're just going to check out of like the political system, because the Democratic Party isn't like offering anything other than like not being Republicans for those people. So I think it's hard to see how people dig themselves out of this mess without actively offering an expansion of the social safety net in some one way or another. Which it might just become necessary if this unrest keeps continuing. Like if we keep seeing, unrest at all these town halls, if protests start breaking out in the streets, if more Tesla dealerships get caught up in conflagrations, perhaps spontaneously, they might just have to pass bills to keep things, to a relative level of stability.
Right.
I would just say,
do we have any more? Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, do we have any more of those
information.
town hall videos? Yeah.
We'll move on from town halls to look at the most important building in the universe, the White House, in a second. But I would just say, and I have no information on this. I've never met a Tesla dealer owner, but it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see a giant parking lot full of vehicles that aren't selling well, and an opportunity to light some of them on fire and blame the left to do it and collect insurance money. Like, I would just take an extra close look at at what the owners of those what contacts they've made in the days preceding those dealership blazes, instead of the far left doing it.
You're right.
Point. Yeah.
This has a lot of Black's Rules energy. And also, I hate to say it, but sometimes like Tesla just do that. They just do that sometimes.
That's
like
true too.
like not even when they're distressed. They just do that. Like, so I can't
It's a feature.
It's a feature, not a bug.
You need to pay the $200 fee a month in order for it to not do the spontaneous combustion mode.
Right. I mean, one of Musk's companies literally sell flamethrowers. So I mean, it's not like he's not providing the means himself. I mean, they're there.
Do you see people ripping the paneling off that was like glued on to the side?
Oh yeah, and they're not even attacking other Teslas. Like, this is them like getting permission to do this to show off how badly Teslas are made, like for YouTube videos. Like, yeah, like
my algorithm is very good at showing me crappy like people showing how badly made Teslas are.
Did you see
I believe
Cybertrucks
one? Which one?
The one where like the guy tried to see if like a Tesla auto drive or full self-driving feature could tell that it was driving into like a wall painted to look like the road. Because like that would be a good thing. I'm not saying that like Wile E. Coyote's out there a lot of times doing that to people, but it turns out Tesla, by nature of the fact that it uses cameras instead of stuff like LiDAR, cannot tell the difference between like well-painted wall that looks like the road and the actual like road itself. And it just drove right through the paneling.
That's great. That's great. Also, we should say that just today, Thursday, March 20th, every single Cybertruck has just been recalled due to that issue where the trim is just falling off of these cars because they're just glued on, as Matt previously mentioned. Seems like a major issue. Like, these cars are just not made well, honestly. And so, if they're who knows what's going on at these Tesla showrooms.
Who's to say?
Who knows? Yeah. Also, there's another trend going on out there where all these like small time right-wing like micro influencers, like the InfoWars like D team, not even the B team, like the D squad is like apparently are getting getting swatted apparently, and they're trying to blame the left. And I'm looking at these names, and I'm like, I haven't even heard of some of these guys. Like, and you're telling me someone out there, some lib hates him enough to swat him. This reeks, again, no proof, but due to previous experience understanding this stuff, reeks of like right-wing infighting or something like that at the very least. That because if it just doesn't make sense, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah,
it could be, or it could just be someone who considers themselves to be apolitical, who's mad about the state of what's happening to like the government under somebody who's very publicly doing it. I think, a lot of times on the left, we get focused on like, declaring everything, like, is it good or bad? Like making a moral statement about like any individual acts of like resistance or antagonism. But in reality, a lot of this stuff just becomes inevitable when you subject mass amounts of people to like incredibly terrible conditions. And it doesn't take any kind of political context, doesn't take reading like a theory, doesn't take any of that stuff to make someone so mad that they hate you enough to do something without care for how it impacts them anymore. I don't know if you guys heard those death threats that what was it, Tim Tillis? Oh God, Tom Tillis was getting out of North Carolina, I think he's from. I've been watching a lot of Republican stuff. Doesn't really particularly matter where he's from, but like not all those people are like, radical Democrat Kamala voters. Not all people are like, Bernie bros. Not all people are like tried and true, like communists. Some people are just like incredibly angry at the state of their lives as a result of the way the government has abandoned them. And now they have incredibly visible targets as a result of that. When people saw what the adjuster did to that CEO of that healthcare company, that should have been a message to billionaires and politicians that like, oh, people are getting really angry now, and they don't feel like the institutions and agencies that exist, that the politicians that exist are capable or willing to provide real tangible redress for the conditions that people are currently living under. So a subsection of those people are just going to take it into their own hands, which is not a good thing. If we're going to put it into a moral, it's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing primarily because it shows that our government has abandoned large swaths of the population to the point where they feel like vigilante justice is the only justice that can be found.
Right. It's a great point too that you should probably explain that one to Elon Musk, because he's probably the number one guy out there right now who's so conspiracy brained that to him everything must be some big nefarious plot with some bigger like name or organization behind it. Everything requires some sort of funding. No one just gets angry with what's going on and does something as an individual. To him, everything requires some sort of like nefarious funding from some, some leftist money guy or organization. And it's just like you mentioned, it's just the majority of the stuff, when it is legitimate, like it isn't some sort of like inside job, is just someone who's upset with how things are going. And this is the only way they know how to share that feeling and that sentiment.
I like to take money from the Saudis and then cast aspersions about other people's where other people are getting their money. Let's tuck in. This is this clip we're talking about. This is Mark Robert, I believe, YouTube channel. Can you fool a self-driving car? This is him testing Tesla.
This one's the only one that matters. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're gonna do this. All right, hit it.
Now, as you can see as a human driver, while that looks sort of convincing, the image processing in our brains is advanced enough that we pick up on minor visual inconsistencies and we wouldn't hit it. And as for the LiDAR, it isn't looking at what image is printed on the wall. So this sort of just looks like a wall, which would make this the easiest test of the day. And as I suspected, handled it with no problem. So the question was, would the Tesla detect and stop for this Wile E. Coyote-style painted wall that was hiding yet another child staring at nothing during what might be his last minutes on Earth?
One way to test that.
Great touch.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good touch.
I was actually supposed to go, but I chickened out. Oh. The car may not know it's a wall, but I know it's a wall. Everything in your body says, don't drive into a wall. Oh boy. All right, here we go.
And so I steeled myself and accelerated the Tesla up to the 40 miles an hour. And as the wall crept closer and closer without moving an inch,
holy crap.
The question was if the Tesla would detect it in time to step on the brakes. And it turned out, holy
Oh no!
So I can definitively say for the first time in the history of the world, Tesla's optical camera system would absolutely smash through a fake wall without even a slight tap on the brakes.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, it seems like, again, that could have been editing, but it seems like, based on what was presented to us, that he was pretty confident the lidar powered automated driving system in that other car, the first car in the video. He seemed pretty sure of himself that he wasn't too worried about going through that wall.
Yeah.
And he had a feeling the Tesla would cause issues because he did not want to even start the Tesla test.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they can't put LiDAR in Teslas because it's too expensive. So this is just like,
profit motive.
Having it put in, having cameras, like just like normal cameras do it, is like the way that you cut corners.
And you know what? I would understand.
Efficiency.
I would understand that if Tesla sold like really affordable vehicles in order to like help spread, the electric vehicle, idea throughout the country or the world, so more people had that entry level into EV cars. So we got more gas guzzling cars off the road. I would understand that if that was the case. But Teslas are not that. They're very expensive, even like the base models.
But no, LiDAR is really expensive. Like way more expensive. I don't think that, I think Waymo, which is like the Google one, and there's like another automated driving car company that does that. Like they both use LiDAR, and they don't even reveal how much each car costs, because it would be like, I think probably like $500,000, or at the very least, the cost of going down to the Titanic and a fiberglass tube cost, like not like a divorced dad trying to flex on his ex-wife cost.
Yeah, exactly. And the LiDAR thing, we knew this also. Let's go watch another YouTube video on the same theme, because I do think it's instructive. This is a video. I don't
know. I'm looking it up right now, and I'm seeing people talk about buying lidar systems for like $1,000. Like
it's just more expensive than the optical video solution Musk's has, and that has killed people, because that test that he ran, that just demonstrated something that we already knew and has already literally killed somebody, including one of Elon Musk's biggest fans on YouTube, a guy named Joshua Brown. This is a telling of that story from a YouTube channel by a guy named Nick Crowley. And the title of this video is, it's a compilation, YouTube's Darkest Channel 7. And this is the channel he's talking about here is a guy named Joshua Brown, who was a self-driving enthusiast of Teslas and posted a bunch of videos about how like great the service was until one day it kind of wasn't so great.
No way of knowing then. But this would not be the last time that Elon Musk would tweet about him.
So Elon tweeted out one of his videos when it showed a Tesla like sort of dodging an obstacle on the road. Look at how great self-driving is.
Though his next feature would be under much different circumstances. It happened just 1 month after Joshua Brown's video had gone viral. He was driving on Highway 27 on a clear sunny day at approximately 4 p.m. With open road ahead, Joshua turned on his trusted autopilot, and it stayed in autopilot mode for over half an hour, as at this point, his trust in the car was higher than ever, causing Joshua to seemingly lose focus on the road, as he was quickly coming up on an intersection where a massive 18-wheeler had been turning left, blocking Joshua's entire lane. Joshua was seemingly so unfocused that he didn't even notice it. Even stranger, the car itself didn't detect this either, despite the entire trailer being horizontal in their lane. This was due to its pure white body, as the sun was shining so brightly against it that, for whatever reason, it became invisible to the self-driving AI. And with neither Joshua nor the car registering the danger that they were in, the vehicle would strike the trailer, going 74 miles per hour.
Oh, God.
There were no attempts by Joshua to even move the steering wheel, and the brakes hadn't so much as been tapped. The collision happened at full speed, and it happened so fast that the car drove straight through underneath, shearing the entire top of the vehicle off, and continuing driving full speed down the road, before it would eventually crash to a halt. When the driver of the truck rushed over to see the damage, Joshua Brown was already dead, and the truck driver could hear nothing but the sound of Harry Potter.
So the guy was watching a movie as he was
Oh my
going down
God.
the road.
Like, I mean, listen, people will argue that there is responsibility for the driver as well. And I agree to some, some extent, but at the same time, these vehicles should not be providing people with the ability to even do this stuff outright. Like, it should not be allowed. There are plenty of things that, there are plenty of other things in life where, if a person was smart enough or responsible enough, they wouldn't do this. But we then institute systems to make it not only so they shouldn't do this, but they literally cannot do this in order to save their lives. It's just what life is. It's part of the society's responsibilities. And for some reason, we think that when it comes to these self-driving cars like Tesla, that you shouldn't have these safeguards created. It makes no sense to me.
I don't think you should be able to, and maybe this makes me a radical leftist, but I don't think you should be able to market something as full self-driving, just like point blank, because calling something like full self-driving and then having like a little asterisk after the driving that like leads to a page with like a 30-page disclaimer that's called like, this is not actually full self-driving. This is some advanced cruise control mechanism, and you should pay attention at all times to the road. Like, yeah, it would be great if everybody was incredibly aware of all the caveats of everything that they signed and bought, but they're not. And we know that they're not. And that's what we need consumer protection for, or we needed it for. And there's a reason why Elon is against those sorts of things, because because those institutions, if they work perfectly, would prevent you from being able to market something as full self-driving, which is what we know is the main source of value for besides his own public image, for like the Tesla brand. This idea that it's going to be like the car of the future, and he's going to be pushing the robo taxi, which won't even have a steering wheel, and like things like that are what drive value for Tesla, and they just simply don't work the way that people are being sold that they work. Much less should be allowed to like watch a movie.
One of the things that Musk recently was selling to his Tesla consumers as a reason to buy a Tesla, one of the more recent features that have yet to come to fruition, if they ever come to fruition, is that, buy a Tesla and you can make money, because while you're at work, the Tesla will become a automatic taxi, a self-driving taxi. And when you're at the office or not at home, people can rent your Tesla to get around, and the Tesla will leave the parking spot you put it in, go pick the person up, go to their drop-off location, and work as if it's a self-driving Uber throughout the day. That is absurd. That is absurd. And you shouldn't be able to sell, A, you shouldn't be able to have that feature, period. And then B, you shouldn't be able to sell a feature like that isn't even possible, or yet at the very least.
Also, in the Cybertruck, you get the little feature where, like, if you pay an extra $10,000 a year, it'll do like your visitation, your monthly visitation that you get with your kids, as a recently divorced dad for you. So you don't even have to go. Like, there are a lot of features that are designed specifically for Elon's fans. So, I mean, I think you have to consider it catering to them.
Right. Tesla drivers who believe in this stuff should ask themselves this question. In the only Hyperloop in existence, the underground tunnel for Tesla, the only one in existence in Vegas that connects the hotel with two sides of the convention center, they don't even use the self-driving aspect of the vehicle in the single lane tunnel to get people from point A to point B. Each of those cars has a human driver. If the self-driving, full self-driving, whatever it's called, was so great, why doesn't Tesla institute it in their single lane tunnel that goes to 3 different locations? Ask yourself that. Why don't they do that? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know why.
Should we get to this Laura Ingraham tour of the White House that Fox has been on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's just a little bit of sneak peek. It's nice to see some of the glamour inside the palace of the new king. And here is Fox News with bringing that to us.
Are you paving over the grass here?
What was happening is that's supposed to have events. Every event you have, it's soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's soaking wet, and people can't. And the women with the high heels, it's just too much.
That's who did the Kavanaugh.
That's where
Kavanaugh
we did.
thing.
That's right.
Amy Coney Barrett.
And the grass just it doesn't work, and we have a gorgeous stone and everything else.
Okay.
But you know we
Hold
use
on,
it for
pause
press
it, pause it,
conferences,
pause
and
it.
it doesn't work because the people fall into the, into the wet.
Living in Queens my whole life, I have seen a number of homes over the years that do this exact thing. They have the little front lawn, and someone new comes in and buys it, and they don't take care of the lawn. So what do? They just fill it with concrete. There is literally nothing fucking uglier than that shit. It is the ugliest thing in existence. And he wants to do this at the White House because the grass gets wet. I mean, it is absurd. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to. Unbelievable. He doesn't even got to mow the lawn himself. There's people who do that for him.
I think we should pave it and make it, a little car dealership style. Get more Teslas in there, the new models. Here's a little bit more.
They said we have to do something like drapes or something because the light eventually affects it. And it's very cool.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that great? Just went up yesterday.
The Declaration of Independence there behind some curtains.
It's got a little curtain. It's got the little curtain. I mean, it's actually pretty spot on. Like, I know they're saying it's so it doesn't get damaged from like the sunlight or whatever, but I look at it more as curtain is open until Donald Trump really doesn't want to respect the Constitution and do things his way. So he just pulls the curtain so it can't look at him back. Like, I'm breaking you, but don't look at me while I do it.
It's peeking through the fold.
How else are you going to keep Nicolas Cage from stealing it if you don't put it behind the curtain, right? Like, obviously, you get leftists just are always supporting Nicolas Cage stealing founding documents from the American people.
I mean, this is what you all voted for. Like, honestly, I don't really care about the Constitution in the Oval Office with the little curtain, nor do I really care about the lawn and just covering it with concrete or whatever. I mean, it'll be butt ugly, but who cares? But like, this is what Donald Trump is spending his time on. This is what your very busy, always working president is doing. He's doing interior design in the White House and then going to the golf course.
He's fetishizing our artifacts and going to whack some balls around.
Like this is what he's spending his time doing. He's not working for you. He doesn't give a shit. He's outsourced his job to Elon Musk, and he's letting whoever he put in charge in his various cabinet positions basically work under Musk to deal with their little niche areas of government. And he's on vacation. I mean, I think the most active I've seen him in is the Kennedy Center stuff. And that's because he always wished he could take control of a New York City Broadway theater, if you ask me. I mean, the dude is obsessed with that stuff, which is probably the only endearing thing about him, or one of the few endearing things about him. But other than that, he's checked out.
Yeah, no, he's running like an aging mafia boss. Like, as long as like whoever is gutting our public sector is giving him some kind of kickback in one form or another, whether it's like to Jared Kushner, whether it's to one of his like other stupid children, whether it's Elon, like it almost doesn't impede on his personal grifts or like make him look too bad. He doesn't care. Like, you can tell by the crypto scams he's been running.
Oh yeah.
This is totally he's looking at this, or at least the people around him looking at this as their opportunity to cash out. This is it. This is the moment. The first, that first term, I think they had bigger aspirations than that, but this time around they just don't give a shit, and they'll do whatever they need to do so that at the end of these 4 years they are so filthy rich and powerful that they're not even thinking about any potential sort of repercussions.
I've never exactly. I've never robbed a bank before. But I imagine this, if you went in a second time, you would know a little bit better how to get in and get out and where the important stuff is than it was the first time.
And you'd be a little cockier too about it, and you'd probably try to, maybe that first time you didn't try to get into like the personal safes because you just wanted to get into the one big one, like the big bank safe. You didn't get into like the personal boxes because you didn't want to, maybe get caught. But the second time around, after not getting caught, maybe you will take your time, look around, see what jewelry is in this box, what documents are in that box, and that's what they're doing.
This is exactly like Ocean's 12. Yeah, I agree with both of you. But no, I think also what is exacerbating that too is because like Trump winning a second term has convinced them that there won't ever be any repercussions for this behavior. Like Trump winning a second term, probably the distillation effect that you experience on Twitter with all the dumb Elon Musk sycophants who are like, no matter what he does, they're like, still keep spitting in my mouth. I love it. I love it. Like it convinces a lot of people who want to believe that there will never be any kind of like significant public backlash or blowback to stuff like this that impacts them, that of course there won't be, because everyone online is like a mindless serf who's just desperate to open their wallets. They're desperate to give the tax dollars to 1%. But we're seeing that that's not the case. And I don't think that has trickled up to these people yet. I think they still think they can just tamp it down by like not having town halls. We don't have a town hall, and people won't even like know what's going on. They'll just be back to eating dirt in whatever district they're in. Like I think that they have a very low opinion of the American people, but largely because they support them. Like Trump has a low opinion of his fans because they support him.
Right. Yeah, they see how easy it is to get what they want. They don't need to do very much of anything for their own followers. So what do they care? I mean, a perfect example too of a lot of the we brought up before, like the Tesla showroom fires or whatever, and the protests at Tesla. And what I'm seeing now, the current, and Brandon just brought up how like the sycophants just will eat their slop up no matter what and always support Musk and Trump. And what you're seeing a lot, and I think I saw this from you actually, Matt, that Andrew Schultz on maybe it wasn't from you, but he's on who's that other guy? That's not Joe Rogan, the guy who's like second place to Joe Rogan
Lex
now.
Friedman?
No, the guy with the long hair. He looks like the guy
Theo
from
Von.
Theo Von.
Chris Jericho? Yeah. Oh,
sorry. So I wish it was Chris Jericho, but actually he's a Trump supporter too, isn't he? Right? Or his wife is. Yeah. So Schultz was on maybe you can even find the video of this. Maybe we should find the video of this if we don't have it. So let's hold up. Let's cover something else. I'll get the video of it because I think this is worth talking about too. It's pretty interesting. Go ahead.
There's a debate here between Saagar and Krystal that I thought was worth maybe digging into for a few minutes. This is on the story of judge blocking deportations of Venezuelans under wartime law. And I think Krystal really holds her own here and holds Saagar's feet to the fire. And I think the ideology Saagar is expressing here, I mean, people call him right wing. This is know-nothingism, sort of nativism of the 19th century. Like, I don't care where they go, just get them out of here. Sort of lack of on top of like sort of not caring about rule of law and like due process. It's we've seen this before, but here's Krystal and Saagar talking about this Venezuela story where James E. Boasberg, federal judge, issued a temporary order blocking the government from deporting immigrants.
This court order or not, and basically they decided not. Now they claimed, it was already over international waters, so it's out of our hands now. Of course, this is like preposterous and
why is
nonsense.
Wait, why?
Well, because
do you think?
But here's the thing,
first of all, read the quote in front of you. However, that's accomplished, whether they're planning a turnaround or not being the operative word. Second,
however it's accomplished.
The plane took off from Texas, which immediately put it over international waters within like 10 minutes. That was 6:35 p.m. The flight landed in El Salvador at 8:35 p.m., making it clear that actually it was over international territory and not over the waters of the United States. Now, do you really believe that some federal judge here in Washington, D.C. has the authority to tell the executive to turn a military aircraft around? You believe, okay, well, then we'll test that at the Supreme Court. We will test that theory at the United States Supreme Court. And if you're right, then we can import these criminals back here.
How do you know?
I like that we're going to test it at the Supreme Court as if that's like a sort of unbiased adjudicator after it's been stacked with the type of people that Saagar represents here.
Also, are the international waters he's talking about, I don't know what the flight pattern was, but this is one of the one. It seems likely. Is the international waters where they hold no jurisdiction over that they're talking about, the recently renamed Gulf of America? I mean, they don't have any jurisdiction there except if they want to rename it, except if Trump wants to rename it, then that's all on them. I mean, come on.
They're looking at every excuse possible to try to justify this as anything other than an incredible violation of the Constitution. Because even for like, you know, they don't want to lose like that portion of the Republican base that actually cares about stuff like that actually cares about like following like the law, this, you know, the law and order Republicans who like initially held their nose for Donald Trump despite being like a known criminal, which, you know, I think is cool generally, but not in this specific case. And so like they have to construct all of these hoops like, oh, it was a military flight. Oh, in fact, it wasn't even a flight that was an American flight at all. It was from Colombia. So it was a Colombian flight with pilots, and oh, it was over international waters too. And oh, it was on a Sunday. And you know, you can't pass laws on a Sunday. Judges can't adjudicate on a Sunday.
It's a military plane.
It's a military plane. All things that like they think will be able to like convince at least a portion of the Republican base that this is okay. And yeah, for like maybe like the, you know, the online Reddit Republican types who are always looking for like any kind of excuse, any kind of justification, it'll play. But anyone with like 2 brain cells, which will understand that this was like a wild violation of people's like civil rights in America, and that it will, more importantly, spread to other groups who they might care more about.
Well, first of all, I mean, this is where, look, you said something earlier, which I think is important. You think your country is being taken away from you because 300-something Venezuelan illegal immigrants were deported to El Salvador.
How do you, what proof do you even have of that?
What?
I mean, because here's the thing.
They were deported to El Salvador?
No.
That they were illegal immigrants?
Yeah, here's the thing.
They all entered the country illegally.
According to the government. I mean, listen, I think that is probably true, but here's what you're defending. Hundreds of people who we don't know who they are disappeared into a foreign prison known for torture where no lawyers or journalists could possibly go and find out who they are and whether the government story adds up, with zero due process. That's what you're defending.
What I'm
is that Trump can summarily say, these people, they're gone. I'm putting them in this prison in a foreign country indefinitely at my discretion, and you don't get to say anything about it. That's what happened here. So I just don't see how
you can't say anything about it. Listen, I think it should be easily challenged to the United States Supreme Court. And I think that within the context of clearly the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, from what I've been able to review, he seems well within his rights to be able to do this from a State Department or a terrorist organization. That's not, listen, you're arguing semantics. I'm talking.
No, I'm arguing the law. Wow. Are we at war right now?
I mean,
this has been invoked 3 times.
As in, you look in the past.
War of 1812, World War I, World War II. Those are the 3 times it's been invoked. All 3 times, especially during World War II, quite shamefully in the internment of Japanese citizens. You think it's okay for our government to round up whoever, claim they're criminals, and imprison them indefinitely in a foreign prison to be tortured?
Well, I'll flip it around.
That's insane to me.
See, you seem much more concerned about that than the importation of 8 to 10 million illegal immigrants under Joe Biden. That seems to me like something my country's been taken away. So this is what I'm saying. Like, we can.
Wow.
Yeah. I want to say, like, Saagar is younger than me. You can't tell by the attitudes he expresses sometimes, but that shit to me is entirely phony. You look around at what's been going on in this, whether it's this country, whether it's Western civilization, whatever these losers, like to fetishize these days, what's been going on, and you think the problem is foreigners? You think the problem is foreigners? That is ridiculous. That, like, we have an issue where capitalists are driving society into the goddamn ground. And this anger here, like, it's one thing if you're in like a border community and your public services are being taxed because it frankly should be a federal effort to make sure that we can deal with refugees and asylum seekers and stuff like that. I understand that. You're a media professional like Saagar is, and you're going to say that the problem is foreigners? I'm sorry, man. I think that's so ridiculous.
I gotta say, I took some like criminal justice classes, throughout my education, and like one thing that always stuck with me from that I learned was like the idea that the U.S. justice system, in the U.S. justice system, it should be that it should be seen as, if 10 guilty parties were to go free and found not guilty, that's better than a single not guilty, like innocent party going to prison wrongly. And he's basically
But what
arguing
if they're
for the
not
opposite.
citizens, Bender? What if they're not citizens?
In that analogy that I learned, they made no determination of citizen or non-citizen or anything like that. Simply guilty or not guilty or innocent. I mean, he's advocating for the opposite of it. Send as many people away as possible, innocent too, as long as we get one guy in prison. I mean, it's just one possibly guilty party in prison. I mean, it's ludicrous, and it's against everything that supposedly being American and loving America is supposed to all be about.
Well,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, he's clearly grifting too, and all these people. Like, I'm reminded by that Jubilee debate that Sam had with those 20, jokers, and that the one blonde lady who turned out to be Canadian or something was saying all this about Western values, all this stuff about European values, but then they express stuff like this that goes against the founding documents of most Western countries that are based on Enlightenment ideals. Now, agreed, we definitely have laws on the books that are archaic, like the one that they're referencing that should have been abolished, that go against the values and spirit of those underlying ideology.
That Thomas Jefferson voided when he came into office right after it.
Exactly. But when you expressed so full-throatedly that you just disagree with people getting due process, you disagree with people having the right to their day in court, because we know that's what the Trump administration is doing. They're keeping people from their days in court. They are shuffling them around to more sympathetic jurisdictions to avoid having them be tried in the jurisdiction that they live or reside in, so that they can have a more favorable outcome for themselves. They're denying the orders from judges to stay or provide more information. These are things that our founding fathers had many issues, and our politicians since then continue to have many issues, but it's clear in the Constitution. It's clear as day, and they'll still come up and say things like, "Oh, well, I'm in favor of America," and the other people who agree. But it's no, you're not. You're not in favor of America in any way that would be understood to anyone who founded America, other than the racism, obviously, but the things that you espouse that should happen to people who are citizens or who are at the very least humans who are within our borders, who the Constitution applies to, would be foreign to the way that they considered the ideal for the United States of America. And the fact they need to be called out on it. Ultimately, this is unconstitutional. I personally think the Constitution could be revised a little bit, but they claim to have some real fealty to it. And then they say things like, "Oh, but America should be a religious fundamentalist state. America should kick people out without due process." Because we know that, I wouldn't necessarily concede even Krystal Ball's point about we knowing that they were Venezuelan, or even because we know ICE has scooped up Puerto Ricans because they're Latino and they speak Spanish, but they're American citizens. We know that this stuff is impacting people who are not fitting into the very neat box of not just Latin American criminal gang members, but the very neat box of just not American citizens.
Yeah, they've been picking up American citizens who look Hispanic. Yeah, there's already been stories that have been reported that American citizens born here are being picked up because they looked Hispanic, and then they're being held for 24, 48 hours until someone from ICE decides to actually open up their wallet and take a look at their ID, and then all of a sudden it's oh, whoopsie.
And to Krystal's credit, she's mentioned those stories that when reporters are actually able to get to the people, which who knows if they will be able to in Bukele's gulag in El Salvador. Like Brandon said, they point out that, actually we can't take Department of Homeland Security and ICE's word for this shit, because it turns out they're fascists. Let's watch a little bit more here. I also just want to key people into, it's very interesting how Saagar, he plays between the difference between what he thinks is what he personally thinks is morally right and just, and what he thinks the law allows, which I think is a little bit of a sign of a little bit of weaseliness. But here we go.
play this game all day long. Do you think that's an invasion?
Saagar.
I think that's an invasion.
Saagar.
8 to 10 million illegal immigrants.
But that's not what he's talking
No, but
about.
he's talking specifically about
he's
Venezuelan
specifically-
migrants.
Yes, and
Yes.
no, he's talking
Yes, the
specifically
gang
about
of
the
Tren de
Aragua.
Yes.
How many people are here from Tren de Aragua?
I have no idea. All right, and that's my
Estimates
that's not even
say roughly.
So it goes from we're in invasion that puts us in a war situation, a la the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. But I don't know how many are here because he's full of shit. Because he knows that he needs some kind of righteousness to point to in this. All this border stuff is very much apologies for. It's a proxy for like why aren't people's lives getting better, but it's actually not the reason. Migrants aren't the reason that people's lives aren't getting better. It's capitalists. Capitalists can't compete with, say, like the CCP, and so we need to find. I mean, this is what the Nazis did. We need to find someone to blame. That's what Saagar is doing here. And I'll just point out like this know nothing thing. I don't know how many there. I don't even know why they're here. The Center for Economic and Policy Research, a think tank, has done a lot of work on this sort of stuff. And I'll just point to a recent thing, March 3rd, 2025, economic sanctions, a root cause of migration, including the sanctions that we put on that country that, among other things, destroyed their main commodity export, oil. And we wonder why people, well, I guess Saagar doesn't wonder why. He just wonders how quickly he can gulag all the people that our foreign policy invades our own country with.
Well, I mean, also, this kind of white supremacy, this kind of ethno-nationalist grifting, is just a scam. It's an affinity scam aimed at poor white people and also people who have been able to like convince themselves that their interests are aligned with poor white people, like poor Latinos and poor Black people, to shrink the proximity between them and the people who are robbing them, like Elon Musk, by convincing them that Elon Musk cares about them simply by nature of the color of their skin. When in reality, Donald Trump does not care about poor white people. Donald Trump doesn't even care about middle-class white people. Donald Trump doesn't care about poor Latinos or poor Black people really either. This kind of rhetoric is to convince people to like open their wallets for billionaires so that they can protect them from some kind of, roaming migrant gangs that exist in such minuscule numbers in this country that it's not really worth noting, instead of like focusing on the people who are actually making their lives worse. And I think we're seeing those town halls. People are starting to realize that a little bit more now because it's like being done so like clumsily and openly. But like people like Saagar are just a little bit better at like articulating that kind of like, that kind of correlation. And they do it. They do it for money. They do it so you don't realize that they're like openly advocating for your life to be made worse.
Here's a little bit more.
Several hundred.
Who are we getting that from the ACLU?
No,
or
Nicaragua.
Yes.
How many people are here from Tren de Aragua?
I have no idea. All right, and that's my
estimates.
Not even
say roughly several hundred.
Who are we getting that from the ACLU or from the lawyer?
No, from agencies, from international agencies that track law and order across Latin America. These are not like liberal do-gooder. These are people who are looking at.
I don't know why he's taking exception with a number he had no contrary like number for. Like who regardless of who said it was 700, you didn't know how to even do an estimate of this thing you said is an invasion.
This is just another example of the Hamas-run health ministry, delegitimizing point. Like this is just like, well, like you can't trust the numbers. Like how many trans people are in America? Like 100,000, 1 million. Where you get those numbers from? Like the Planned Parenthood. That makes the numbers suspect. That way, I can just say it's any number. It's 100 million trans people. It's 100,000 million immigrants crossing the border every day. There are more migrants in the country. There are more Mexicans in the country than there are Americans. Forget what you've heard you've heard from the news.
The spread of gangs around the world. Okay, many actually of these people likely were fleeing violence from the very gang that you're talking about.
That's probably a convenient narrative.
Hold on.
So I think that's a very convenient narrative.
In terms of who.
Again, how the fuck would he know? He hasn't looked into it, or he has no interest in like why there are why are Venezuelans coming here? Oh, where did Tren de Aragua come from, Saagar? Where did MS-13 come from? Maybe they both came from fucking prisons because people like you for so long have just said, let's just cage everybody. Let's just cage everyone. That'll solve the problem. You think there's not going to be downstream effects from Bukele's prisons? You fucking think so? There's either going to be death camps or there's going to be gangs. I guarantee you they're either going to start just shooting people down there there, or it's going to become a huge, huge problem with, oh crap, it turns out we can't just indefinitely cage people like this.
Also, like, that kind of argument is just an appeal to like a very specific logical fallacy that the far right falls to like every day online, but never identifies in themselves when they're talking about ad hominem, which is that just like an appeal to incredulity. Like, if I don't believe something, if I hear something that doesn't sound right to me, like based on like my limited understanding of the world or my experiences, then it must be wrong or suspicious in some way. And I don't still need to look into it to know, because my gut instinct is so finely tuned to stuff like this. But I can tell, like it's the underlying, it's the like the undercurrent of most right-wing propaganda that like you can just imagine that something doesn't sound right to you. Like Jewish Nazis, black white supremacists, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. So it can't be true. I'm so very smart.
Was brought to Guantanamo Bay, okay, imprisoned in Gitmo. The Trump administration made the same, oh, these are gang members. These are the worst of the worst. Some of them didn't even have criminal records at all. Some of them, who they claimed were in Tren de Aragua, it was because of either they were from that state of Aragua in Venezuela and actually, like I said, had been fleeing the violence from this gang, or they happened to have a tattoo that made them think like, oh, they're just in the gang. One of the people who was part of this group is a LGBT Venezuelan who was in prison, according to his lawyer, because of his tattoo, was assumed to be in a gang. That's what we're talking about here. So there is no reason.
Why is he being gay or whatever? How is that relevant? Like what?
Because how do you think it's going to go for him, Saagar?
What?
He's an artist. How do you think this is? My whole
so
point.
He's magically allowed presence in the United States.
Okay, then don't care.
Presence in the United States? No, you fucking Nazi. He's allowed due process to prove that he doesn't get deported to a gulag as a gang member. The dishonesty is so palpable. It's unbelievable.
I think they're like, or Saagar in this case is even avoiding like the most basic like baseline here, where like, all right, let's see in a normal process these people were deported. They would be, just for being in the United States, not for a crime, just deported. They would just go be deported to wherever country they originated from, and they would live there freely. Like they wouldn't be in a prison there. We just sent people who committed no crime at all to a prison in El Salvador for simply being in this country, which even if they weren't supposed to be and went through the normal process, would have just been deported from to their country of origin, where they would, again, not be in prison there. Like, that's something that he's not even considering here. So, yeah, her point is that the LGBTQ artist who did not commit any crimes, who is not a criminal, should not be in a prison to begin with. And, yeah, that person probably will be targeted in prison for not being like a hard criminal, and he's in this hard prison in El Salvador. I mean, that's her point. It seems pretty obvious, but he's playing stupid.
How do you think this is? My whole point.
He's magically allowed presence in the United States.
Okay, then don't care that he's gay. Do you care that he was wrongfully imprisoned and disappeared into a foreign jail cell, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it? Does that bother you?
According to his ACLU lawyer, he's not a part of the trend.
Do you truly believe?
I'm supposed to trust some open borders lawyer?
Do you truly believe that they rounded up in this? They successfully rounded up every Tren de Aragua gang member in the country? That's it.
No, I don't.
Mission accomplished. Okay.
If anything, there's probably a lot more that need to go. Now, this is actually what I'm saying, is that at the end of the day, within the powers of the State Department, which has declared this in FTO, the powers within the executive are quite clear. I'll also note, Trump literally promised to do this on the campaign trail. So this was one of the most telegraphed actions in like modern history.
Are you good with it?
I mean, Krystal,
people,
are you good with 8 to 10 million illegal immigrants coming in over 4 years?
We're changing the subject. Yes, I am. You know that I'm fine.
Yeah, okay, so then
let's answer that, should we? He thinks it's such a challenge. I think that there should be less people displaced by, say, our foreign policy. It'd be nice if nobody was displaced and could just live a great life in the place that they are. To the extent that people do get displaced, I reject that it's because Democrats are saying, let's do open borders now, come in and let's replace Republican voters. It's more because we want to, again, destroy Venezuela's economy because we don't like their politics.
I feel like if you want to come here, you should be able to come here. And you know what? The fact that there's even this this issue where people have to come here as undocumented immigrants is a failure of our immigration system. They should be able to get through our system super fast. We should be able to process people much quicker. They want to come here. We just check to make sure that they're not going to do anything horrible or terrible, like for the very few criminals that there are, and everyone else should be allowed to come in very easily, legally.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am not okay with 8 to 10 million illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants coming to the country. They should be documented and legal. I think I'm okay with infinite number of documented and legal immigrants coming into this country and being, adequately integrated into our social safety net, adequately integrated into our workforce, adequately integrated into our culture to the point that they want to be, because that's what makes America a rich country that flourishes. What they're advocating for is something that will result in not just those people being subject to vast human rights abuses, but the country as a whole being worse off in basically every single way. And they're going to do their best to occlude that latter fact, that like this is going to make your life worse as well, because they've spent so many decades convincing you that doing this to people will make your life better, so that like that smug asshole Saagar can go on television and not even believe half the stuff he's saying, just like grin at you because he likes the idea of the argument he's making. He likes the fact that he's able to rile up Krystal. Obviously, he likes that his argument probably sounds good to like a bunch of dumb people online. The same with the Ben Shapiro types. Like you can always tell when some people really are zealotly in belief of this, but he's not. He's doing this for money, and that's a very good sign of like what the Republican Party media sphere is about. People trying to convince you that shooting yourself in the foot is actually going to enrich you because it enriches them.
Exactly, and the whole premise that they're concerned about, this is suppressing working class wages, as if they're not interested in that themselves. Donald Trump literally does that. He's literally on the books building his claim to fame Trump Tower with undocumented Polish workers that when they said, hey, we're tired of being stiffed on our meager pay that is already undercutting the unions in the area, they threatened to kill the liaison because the liaison that was between Trump and the workers said, well, I'm going to call ICE if you guys don't get in line. Or it wasn't ICE back then, it was border enforcement. But yeah, like if we're worried about what's going on with wages, there are ways to do that. You do the PRO Act, you make it a lot easier to organize. There are all sorts of ways besides this, what is basically a military-industrial complex on our border, which is what the border militarization is, which is just a way for us. Now we're turning away from all these foreign wars. Trump is the anti-war guy. If we're just pumping military equipment down to the southern border, it's going to the same sort of evil contractors that it's just slightly different money going to a slightly different place.
And also the border, and I try not to make this about the impact that it's going to have on, people other than who's directly impacted, which are the undocumented immigrants, specifically the ones that are being terrorized by this terrorist regime, the ones that are being extraordinarily renditioned by ICE to, essentially would be a black site if it wasn't for the fact that El Salvador is run by like an openly like far right maniac. But the border. And border militarization is how domestic surveillance, domestic militarization, foreign spying networks, how it's imported home. Like it's the mechanism, it's the vector by which we start to bring the war on terror back to American soil, even more than we saw with stuff like the Patriot Act and other acts in post 9/11 Congress passed. And it's how we turn, when they say every state is a border state, it's how they justify militarizing every state. It's how they justify removing habeas corpus from everybody in every state. And we've seen, it's not just Latinos who get caught up in this. There are a lot of white undocumented immigrants in America too. Like if you think that there is a simple way to tell who is and is not an American visually, it's because you are a racist, but there is not. There are plenty of undocumented Irish immigrants in America. There are plenty plenty of undocumented Canadian immigrants in America. There are plenty of undocumented immigrants from all over Europe who are white in America. There are plenty of white passing undocumented Latinos too. And ICE will use that as an excuse to remove everyone's civil rights in this country. And the people who are cheering it on are either stupid or believe that they are insulated by their own wealth, like Saagar believes that he is, and so it will not impact them. But most of those people are wrong.
And it's already happening. Like all these Mahmoud Khalil, but also the Georgetown teacher, like that's all the border enforcement, they're not looking at Trenda Aragua, you moron. That was just a propaganda object to get people scared. They're looking at people who posted Free Palestine are on green cards now. Let's just play a little bit more of this because I like the way Krystal holds his feet to the fire.
Are you good? Quit changing the subject.
That's an
comfortable?
important part of the story.
Are you comfortable with random people being snatched
I don't think
up?
that they're random. I think they're illegal immigrants.
Okay, give me your proof.
What of what? That they entered the country
No, give me your proof these are gang members.
I don't have to offer that proof. And actually, even the government doesn't necessarily have to do that either for deportation purposes.
Are you good with that?
With what?
Being able to snatch up random people.
But they're not random. They're here illegally.
You know
they're not
that?
Citizens. They are.
So you're fine with
They have criminally entered our country.
You think that an appropriate punishment for people who are fleeing gang violence and coming here seeking a better life.
According to you,
do you think that an appropriate punishment is to be disappeared into a foreign jail cell to be tortured indefinitely and subjected to slave labor?
What I think is that their responsibility and safety is the problem of the Venezuelan government, and that they can argue to the government of El Salvador and identify these individuals.
Answer my question. Is it okay with you,
Krystal?
Is it okay with you? You think it is an appropriate punishment for someone who crossed our border seeking a better life to be disappeared with zero due process into a foreign jail cell to be tortured? Are you good with that?
First of all, look, you're offering up a lot of claims which you don't even necessarily to be true. In the same way, you can't say for certain or whatever they've been tortured. Oh, they had their head shaven by the El Salvadorian.
This is what this prison is known for.
Okay, that's
the
again,
whole point of what this prison is known for.
I think it's, look, as I continue to say, when you let in 8 to 10 million people and you elect a president who says, I'm going to use the Alien Enemies Act to mass deport people and stand in front of a sign, and then you win the popular vote, then yeah, I am okay with it. And in fact, the only problem I have with the Trump administration is that they've been prioritizing this stupid shit like trying to deport someone like Mahmoud Khalil for some billionaire donors and not the people who came here illegally. Those people entered our country criminally and illegally. This whole, fleeing a better life is BS.
That's not BS.
They're economic migrants.
Yeah, that's fleeing for a better life.
Okay,
I mean, there are no problems in Venezuela.
This better life stuff is bullshit.
He's constantly playing stupid throughout the whole thing. Like because he's deflecting. He doesn't want to answer the question. It makes him look
right. Bad. It's the fight. It's people voted for it. If you actually look at the polling, people want the sort of violent criminals deported, right? Which is what we're already doing. The idea that they want mass deportations, particularly when you drill down to what that means, is just people who have done nothing wrong, but that they weren't documented when they came into this country, is not popular. But here's the thing: like none of these guys can say actually, that's why I like that Krystal eventually pulled it out of him. What do you want? Regardless of your interpretation of, John Adams era alien laws, who gives a fuck with that? Because we don't have real courts in this country anyway that will adjudicate law in any kind of unbiased manner. What do you want? Do you want these deportations to be done in an entirely lawless manner where there's no sort of checks on is this person actually a gang member, or is that just something that people like Saagar say to try to get public opinion to remain on their side as they do horrible shit? Because they know that they need to call these people Trenda Aragua, even though they fucking know that actually that's not just who they're concerned about. Because Saagar admitted he doesn't know how many Trenda Aragua there. He's concerned with every single person that's undocumented, regardless of whether they're Trenda Aragua or not. Trenda Aragua is just, like I said, a propaganda object for fascists like Saagar to scare people with.
Yeah, he calls them Trende Aragua because he doesn't want you to see the connections between their civil rights violations and your civil rights violation. That's why they've started to call like all Latino gangs cartels. That's why they've started to call all cartels terrorists, because they've laid the foundation for people to believe that if you are just labeled the wrong type or very specific type of criminal, civil rights just don't apply to you, and they shouldn't apply to you. I don't care what Trump ran on. I do care what Trump ran on, but like you shouldn't be able to run in a country on violating people's civil rights. That's what makes them civil rights. You shouldn't be able to run on violating the Constitution. And then when you get elected, go like, well, yeah, I'm going to violate the Constitution. That's why we're supposed to have checks and balances. That's what the Constitution is for, right? That's what I mean. Like when you advocate this kind of stuff, like I know we have a lot of openly fascist Americans. That goes without saying. Part of the problem with America is that some people are openly fascist, but you shouldn't be able to frame that as being somehow in tune with like the ideals of the American project, because it just isn't. It really isn't, regardless of like the individual instances, like the Alien Enemies Act you can reference. Like we know what people theoretically founded this country based on, and it is not this. Right now, should that be the only reason we don't do this because what the founding fathers thought? No, but at the very least we should contextualize what they're wanting as being so radically divorced from what like people who believed and like founded this country would have considered to be like American patriotism. Like they, it's more aligned with the authoritarian regimes that they claim to hate, I guess.
Yeah, it's also like ironic, the rise in migration, which again is tied to all sorts of things that we should address as a world community. But Trump was running on building the wall in 2016. Like this is just that it's tied to any sort of statistics about demographics and foreign-born population is again, it's just lies. And Trende Aragua is just the domestic version of Hamas. Don't trust anything. They're scary. And it justifies force. I have that. I think the Andrew Schultz on Theo Von.
Yes, I posted it in the, let's do that because, so we were talking before about the Tesla showroom vandalism, allegedly, and all sorts of these Tesla protests. And apparently the right is going to now, well, they have been, but it seems like they're really starting to circle around and protect poor little weak vulnerable Elon Musk, world's richest man, who apparently doesn't have any way to protect himself other than the podcast comedians coming to his rescue. So here's Andrew Schultz on Theo Von's podcast, defending Elon Musk and the protests against Tesla. And I want to bring this up because I'm seeing this line that Schultz brings up more and more about how, listen, whatever you think about Elon, how can you harm an American company like Tesla? You want to see Americans lose their jobs over this because you disagree with Tesla CEO? Play Schultz here.
So
for real.
So this is like a kind of shitty situation where, like, yes, I understand that he's antagonizing people. He's like rubbing people the wrong way. You don't like the guy. You don't like the beliefs. You don't like what he's doing. And there are things to criticize. I'm not saying there aren't things to criticize. Like nobody's above criticism, but to punish.
Can I just say name one? Go ahead, do it. What would you emphasize, Schultz? There's all these sorts to criticize. It's very easy to say. Put one on the line.
Above criticism, but to punish that car company that is 100% made in America, made by people living in America, Americans rely on those jobs. Like maybe we criticize another thing.
Right.
Like what is your goal? That we shut down those factories and those Americans lose those jobs? That makes you feel better about your gripe with Elon?
That's the thing. Some people, they just want to win an argument, it feels like,
And they don't realize there's people that rely on those fucking jobs.
Oh, for
So this is such a great argument because it shows just how stupid these guys are, honestly. Because why are people protesting at Teslas? Because they want to show their disapproval of its CEO Musk. And what is Musk doing that is so bad? Well, one of those things is he's openly advocating for fascism and right-wing governments all over the world. That's one reason, but a bigger reason, probably the main reason people are protesting against Tesla because of Musk is because Musk, through his government project with Doge is firing slews of federal workers, American citizens. American citizens are losing their job because of Elon Musk. This is amazing that they're so worried about Tesla and the Tesla employees losing their job that they don't even care about the fact that Elon Musk right now is firing people. American citizens are losing their job right now because of Elon Musk.
The irony is we feel the way he feels about Tesla, but we feel it about the United States government, which I would argue is a better thing to feel it about.
I know.
Like, and on top of that, though, there's the added thing, though, that these are guys who I am sure, I can guarantee you could probably find in 2 seconds a Schultz clip of him knocking or criticizing or any of these guys really doing it, cheering the decline of some company they disagree with. They did it for Bud Light. They do it all the time for like Disney. All these companies that hire American workers and provide good American jobs. If they don't agree with them, though, with their right-wing opinions, you better believe these are the first guys out there cheering on any small repercussion that these companies feel for end up feeling for not agreeing with them. It is absurd. These guys are ripe with hypocrisy.
Yeah, no, I'll try to avoid making any casting any aspersions at the online comedians. People get so mad when you make fun of like their favorite like intellectually subnormal comedian. They'll you slap one of their parents online. But what I will say is that 2 points, right? The valuation of Tesla is inextricably entangled with Elon Musk's public perception. When people thought that he was like Tony Stark, when he was like doing cool like flamethrower gags, even now Tesla's stock prices was booming because people were able to believe that he was going to this new era technologist who's going to usher in a wave of like future technology that like we haven't we're all just waiting for. We're all waiting for hover cars. We're all waiting for self-driving cars. We're all waiting for space exploration. It was very easy to believe that when he was like only in the news sometimes. Now that people are aware of the kind of person that he is, much harder to believe that, much harder to ignore his problematic politics. The second part of this is that I think it's revealing for, and I don't know much about these two, excuse me, but the resistance to people like expressing their dissatisfaction with Tesla through boycotts, with protesting, I think it's still revealing about like what the free speech advocates online actually always wanted. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. And that's that, they don't want people to have the freedom of dissociating with them if they don't like what they're doing. Like for them, free speech means that as long as I'm not technically committing a crime against you, you should have to engage with me the way I want and not be able to distance yourself from me, not be able to convince other people to distance themselves from me, not express any kind of dissatisfaction or negativity about what I'm doing publicly. You should just, have to deal with me or go away quietly. And you just don't have to. Like that's what free speech is. It's not like being forced to buy Tesla. It's not being allowed to boycott Tesla. It's not being allowed to talk trash about Tesla's terrible Cybertruck. It's being allowed to do all those things, right? But they want it to be the opposite. And I think that's a very compelling message to people who make their money from their public persona and don't want that to ever go away. But like it's just not the way the world really works.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of how the world really works, it doesn't actually work where Tesla is a purely American car company doing everything in America. In fact, they sent an unsigned letter, not from Musk, but from the other Tesla folks saying, hey, your tariffs are going to F us up because we source a lot of stuff from good old China because that's who's making the EV batteries. So yeah, an American company. Look, I think like Ford, if I don't own a car, I live in Brooklyn, but if I bought a car, I'd probably buy an American UAW sort of a backed car. I'm not buying a non-union vehicle ever in my life. But here's what has these guys really pissed off is Tim Walz. And I would just say, do not, Tim Walz, buy into the people that are saying to cool it like you did last year when they said stop calling them weird. Continue to say you like Tesla's stock price to drop. Who cares how much they complain about it because it's really good.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, If you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, you know, and take out. Just telling you.
Yeah. I seen the right wingers reaction to him saying that. Of course, if like Trump was to which I'm sure he does all the time, was to relish in the failure of a company that he didn't like, or a company that dared to speak out with him, I mean, they'd be backing him up, of course. I mean, it's hypocrisy all the way around. Tim Walz should continue to do these because I think he's good at it. And yeah, I mean, it's ludicrous. Also, the idea that every American company is a little angel and we should be supporting all American companies is just bullshit.
Yeah, hey,
I'm sorry.
You know what,
yeah.
Andrew Schultz? That's what the billions of dollars in subsidies for. Okay, how about we don't need to be nice to a company that we've frankly bankrolled, who Barack Obama saved with a giant loan during the financial crisis? You're welcome. And you know what? We're going to ridicule this guy. And I would just say, God bless everybody showing up to protest these dealerships and making it a tough time. I've seen pranksters go in, doing like, making like Sig Heil jokes to the staff there. I would say you might be accused of terrorism, so it'd probably be safer to do that in places like Canada or something now. But that is just, I mean, great place. Because, again, he bought Twitter by putting his ownership of his stocks like SpaceX and Tesla on the line to back it up. If those go under, you know, like it's down, it's even down to 232, is at 235 when Tim Walz said that. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. I just love the idea now that apparently, oh, how can you say something about an American company? Oh, how can you? These guys, the rights, like the right, love saying things about any company they don't like. They don't give a shit about American otherwise. They're in, and you know, every now and then, you know, the right, the clock, you know, the clock is correct for the right, and they get the time right, and they criticize a company like BlackRock. Oh, you can't do that anymore, guys. That's a good old American company. Leave them alone.
I would just Google to see like what kind of conditions these workers look in. Tesla, in addition to like just contractors dying, like here in Texas, and Greg Casar, the representative down there, is doing good work of keeping on Elon on that. But Tesla Fremont factory, this is in California, faces class action lawsuit alleging severe racism against black workers. Look at the details of that before you get too before you drop down on your knees and glorify this American company.
Right. Well, they don't. That's the thing, though. They don't. They literally view it as the people to admire from Tesla is Elon Musk. They don't care about
the executives.
They don't. Right. Yeah. They don't. The executives are the people to admire. They aspire to be the executives. They don't look at like the guy in the factory working hard for his family to actually build the car. The guy who actually creates the product that you use and apparently enjoy so much. They don't give a shit about that person.
All right, folks. I think we did it.
Oh, we're already. Wow. I guess let me read a few IMs, and then that's the show, right? Wow, time flies when you're having fun. Emma should miss more episodes. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh, I'm gonna get some emails now. This is from Dark Soul. Trump literally insults media organizations that aren't direct mouthpieces for him or any that give him the slightest bit of pushback. Plenty of Americans work there. Right. They don't care about that, though. Of course. Of course not. Not Andrew Schultz says, for Andrew Schultz, the only person who had to lose their job is Elon Musk. Sent with Lasers says, is Saagar evil or stupid? You know, does it have to be evil?
It's a synergy.
Either or, yeah. Let's see what else. Chef Solo says, country was founded by illegal immigrants. Absolutely. Spocko says, I love the town hall videos, but if your rep isn't holding one or you can't go to one, Alex Lawson of Social Security Works has set up a way people can organize a rally at your local Social Security office. The URL is handsoffsocialsecurity.org. Then you can get the rallies in the local media, like the Tesla takedown rallies. That's a great idea. And I think that would do
awesome.
The Tesla ones are great because it's so easy. I think a lot more people honestly hate Musk than, I mean, the polls have even said that. A lot more people hate Musk than even Trump now. But I think the, getting the media to cover the protests at Social Security offices would be more beneficial policy-wise than the Tesla ones. Keep doing both though. Don't back down off Tesla either. Let's just do a few more. The Baileys say, Jesus, does he think the right will spare him? He's going to be in the mass grave with me. Saagar is such a dumb fuck. Saagar is really like half these IMs all came during that segment. God. DSA Aaron in Atlanta says, Brandon, we are already in techno-feudalism. Yes. The other Russert says the Matt Jardy report. Yes, someone actually, I dropped it in the chat. Someone created, this doesn't happen quite often, but someone did drop a logo we can use when Emma is missing in future episodes. It's pretty great. It's in the, I don't know if I'm going to pull that up. I definitely think it's good enough to use for sure. While you pull that up, I'll read maybe a few more IMs, and then that's it. Sun's Out, Guns Out says Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Tim Walz should use this moment to reorganize civil society similar to Huey Long share. The clubs, I would call them work and production clubs. And then Matt Jardy report says, I see Matt's plot to oust Emma on Thursdays is coming to fruition. Anyone who missed it, by the way, Emma is out sick. This was a last minute thing. She was supposed to be here today, but she got ill. Sam will be back tomorrow. Hopefully Emma is feeling good enough to be back tomorrow, but that's what happened today. And I think that's it, right? That's the show. Right?
Yeah, I don't think I'm on the thread now where you sent that.
Oh no, it's everybody. In the ping chat.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'll read one or two more while you pull it up because I think it's worth it's I liked it. It's funny. I lost it. It's gone. Oh no, here it is. Okay. This one's for you, Matt Leck. Jefferson Davis Vance asks, hey Matt, I know it's still early days, but as a JFK head, what's your initial impression of the new files released?
They released a bunch of unredacted stuff. Jefferson Morley, who is one of the journalists, Noah Colwyn, who we were going to talk to a little bit about today, seemed impressed by it. I think there's a lot of stuff to go through. I mean, already just interesting. I mean, it's sort of, you're not going to see anything like that admits, say, a bunch of anti-Castro Cubans and CIA folks decided to do one of the plans that they had for another world leader on JFK. You're not going to see that level of admission, but you will see things like, we plan to destroy crops in Cuba. I mean, to go back to this whole story about, like, we were talking about with Saagar, where why are people getting displaced? Why are there these Cubans here? Well, it's because we're trying to destroy their country because of their politics. I believe the Schlesinger memo, which gets into CIA involvement and how pissed JFK was about CIA and how over their protocol or beyond their remit the CIA was in the 60s. Of course, this is stuff that, we knew. A month to the day after JFK was assassinated, Harry Truman released an op-ed in the Washington Post saying, hey, the CIA is kind of crazy, isn't it, y'all? So like a lot of this stuff has been sort of known, but it's very interesting. And I would check out the Mary Farrell Foundation for the sort of researchers, the grassroots researchers who are most adept at looking through JFK stuff.
All right, folks. So check out Leftist Mafia tonight on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matt Binder. It'll be, me, David Dole, Mike from the Humus Report. It'll be good times. Lance from the Surfs, Rebecca Azor, and check out Brandon's show, The Discourse. And Brandon, you stream pretty regularly now, don't you?
I do. I was streaming before I came on here. I literally stopped my stream like 15 minutes before we got on here. So I've been streaming all day. I'm what you call a professional streamer now.
Oh, look at that. I got another Hassan.
And I will be streaming.
Another Hassan in the works here.
I'm putting all these chumps on notice. I'm the leftist Joe Rogan. I'm going to endanger my fans for no reason but clout. Anyway, yeah, so we'll be streaming tomorrow as well. I don't know what specifically we're going to be going over, but I've been doing a lot of conspiracy videos on Friday. We've been having a good time with that. So we'll probably do some news and then do a conspiracy video tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 12-ish p.m. Eastern. So, definitely be there or be squared.
And Matt Leck, your shows. Give us the rundown.
Left Reckoning. We'll have Jeet here on, I believe, next week. Check it out, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. We had a bunch of interesting stuff recently. We got into Chuck Schumer in the post game last weekend. Here's this thing, by the way, the logo. The Matt Jordy report with Brandon Sutton. Now, just one final note, because I saw somebody in the chat say Oswald is still the prime suspect. He may be. I am more or less agnostic about that sort of stuff. But what I can say objectively is Lee Harvey Oswald was an intelligence asset of the United States government, and that has only been more and more proven as documents get released. So look into it would be my advice. Check that out, folks. Yeah. You want to sign off, Binder?
Yeah, sure. Everyone do me a favor tomorrow. When Sam officially introduces the new producer, please act shocked. Like, really ramp it up. Like, really, oh, wow, what a name. Who could have guessed? All right. Sam's back tomorrow for Casual Friday. Matt Binder, Brandon Sutton, Matt Leck, and anonymous new producer signing off on the Matt Jardy Report.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie.